So dear students, we're going to start our last topic and last recorded session for the subject advanced manufacturing, and now we will be covering surface engineering and surface and coatings technology. What types of surfaces which are available and how are they used to protect different types of surfaces and what are their functions. So let's take a look at what are the functions of surface coating. So the question comes that why are surface coatings required? Okay, why do we need protection? From whom do we need protection from? Okay, it can either be external agents, it can be external environment, it can be environment generated by humans itself. For instance, a bullet basically striking a surface. So we need different environments, and we need to tailor our surface for different environment and for different functions. So let's take a look at what are the different reasons why we need surface improvement. So what are the reasons that are required to coat a surface? Let's take a look at that. So let's take a look at the reasons why do we need to coat surfaces. Okay, number one reason is improving resistance to wear and erosion. So the reason why we need this is basically we have machine tools, and those machine tools are drilling holes or doing the turning process. So in this way what happens is that we want the wear to be the least. Okay, so what we do is we coat the tools, and then this improves and enhances the resistance to wear, erosion, indentation, and etc. Then the next thing is controlling friction. So for example, if you got sliding surfaces of tools, dies, okay, bearings, okay, impellers, shafts, then in that case we need to control the friction so that the amount of heat generated is within the limits. Then next is reduce adhesion. So if you got electrical contacts, okay, then we need to get coatings which can reduce adhesion as well. Then we need to improve lubrication. Why do we need to improve lubrication? Because surfaces which can retain the lubricants, then they are basically have good lubricity, and when they've got good lubricity, then they are able to maintain less friction. So our surface modification should be such that the lubrication is improved. Next is improving the resistance to corrosion and oxidation. So in sheet metals, in automotive industries, you want your car body to remain and last longer. You want your piping systems to last longer. You want your gas turbines, your food, your medical devices, okay, your braces to last longer in your mouth without oxidation and without corrosion pressure. So these are the first 5 things and reasons that we do coating. Next we move on to the other reasons. The other reasons are improving fatigue resistance. So the reason why you do fatigue resistance is because you've got a cyclic load. So when we talk about bearings, when we talk about shafts and fillets, then these are the condition in which the cyclic load occurs. So in this way, if we coat the surface, then that load is basically less transmitted to the bulk material. Next we talk about rebuilding surface, such as your cranes, your tools which are worn out, then we can basically coat them once again. Once we coat them once again with a hard facing alloy, with a hard coating, then we can reuse that thing again for our purpose. The teeth of the crane, you can see the bulldozers, they've got those teeth, okay, that can be rebuilt again as well. Then we can sometimes do modification and surface texturing. So what happens is that with that you can improve the appearance, okay, and three-dimensional accuracy of your part or product and improve frictional characteristics. And last but not least, you can improve the aesthetics, and you can improve the looks of your product by putting decorative features. So these are some of the reasons why we carried out coatings and surface treatments, etc. So now let's move on to basically what are the options, what are the different types of techniques which are available for our coating purposes. So let's take a look at some of the mechanical surface treatments. Number one is shot peening. In shot peening, what happens is basically you have got balls, okay, those balls are very small balls, they are made of ceramic, glass or steel, and then you basically impact with the help of air a very high velocity of these small balls are impacted onto the surface, making indentations. And because of those indentations which are left on the surface that I want to do peening, plastic deformation is created on the surface, and it induces residual compressive stresses, because of which fatigue lag is improved. So short peening and these type of techniques such as laser short peening also improves the fatigue life. The planer shocks the surface, okay, and this is done with the help of high power lasers, and basically we can get a cold working of the surface, and a compressive residual stresses are generated. So this is very good technique for airplane fan blades, and which are made of titanium nickel alloys, for improving the fatigue resistance. So more importantly, mechanical treatments are more important, and peening processes are more important to improve the fatigue lives.
Let's learn more about how laser peening works. Stress can lead to metal fatigue in critical parts like the fan blades of jet aircraft, connecting rods in heavy equipment, metal forming dies, aluminum ship decks, power plant components, causing costly equipment damage and serious injuries. Example of how the Procuto laser peening system protects against cracking and breakdowns in a key engine part, the crankshaft. Mounted on the robot, the part is in position, and it will rotate on the axis of the journal to receive laser peening treatment. The laser will strike at the stress points we identified. A thin water layer flows to cover the target area. We are animating this in slow motion to illustrate the rapid-fire nature of the pulsed high-energy Procuto system running at 20 Hz. Unlike most industrial laser processes, laser peening does not use a continuous laser beam. Each of these laser pulses ignites a controlled plasma explosion between the water layer and the metal surface. The Procuto laser peening system has the capability to optimize the process to meet any customer's needs by adjusting the power density, which measures the level of pressure on the part. Let's take a look at what laser peening is doing to the metal deep under the surface. Here is a close-up view of a metal surface and the granular metal structure below. The water forms an overlay that is transparent to the laser beam. The laser beam passes through the water to the surface of the metal. When the laser pulse hits the metal surface, the water confines the resulting shock wave, which penetrates deep into the part. Looking even closer, we can represent the grain structure of the metal by this grid structure. The pressure of the shock wave hits a small, precise segment of the grid, which expands and stretches. Surrounding metal adapts to the microstructural change induced by laser peening, but it also pushes back against the laser peened segment of the metal. The tension between these two forces creates beneficial compressive residual stresses that prevent metal fatigue. The resulting compressive residual stresses typically penetrate more than 1 millimeter below the.
Similarly, we have got water jet peening, we have got ultrasonic peening, roller burnishing. In roller burnishing, what happens is that you've got rollers, and those rollers basically are called surface rolling, and these surface rollers basically cold work the surface. So you've got rollers and they are going to cold work the surface, and those highly polished rollers are going to make it very flat and cylindrical, and they're going to remove the imperfections or flaws in the surface. Okay, so with that, what happens is that those rollers also induce plastic deformation, and due to the plastic deformation you get residual stresses, compressive residual stresses, which are beneficial for fatigue resistance. So these were some of the techniques for improving the fatigue resistance, and these are the mechanical surface treatments. Same goes for explosive hardening as well. Next we move on to other techniques, which are mechanical plating and cladding, and then this is followed by case hardening or hard facing. So when we talk about mechanical plating, then in mechanical plating what happens is that fine metal particles are compacted, very fine metal particles are compacted over the workpiece surface by glass, ceramic or porcelain beads, and they are basically propelled by rotary means such as tumbling. So I'm going to do tumbling of those small beads so that they are embedded. What happens is that those small particles, they are cold welded to the surface, and then they act as a protective layer. Then similarly, if you talk about cladding, then cladding is basically you have got a sheet metal, and then with the help of pressure, with the help of explosive welding, or with the help of clad bonding, you are going to put another sheet of metal over it so that it can protect the first sheet of metal. So this is basically used for as an anodic protection device. So the cladding layer is anodic to the core, and it usually has a thickness of less than 10% of the total thickness of the material. So like cladding, we've got laser cladding also. This is a new technique in which we have a laser, and that laser deposits the thickness of a powder layer onto the surface to create a laser clad. Next, we've got a case hardening. In case hardening, basically, it is a very conventional way. Case hardening basically comprises of carburizing, nitriding. You must have heard of flame hardening. Okay, you put flame over the surface of the metal, and that heat basically transform the surface and transform the steel surface to martensite. And martensite is a microstructure which is very hard. So that formation of martensite also causes compressive and residual stresses on the surface. So such stresses are desirable because they improve the fatigue life of the components by delaying the initiation of the fatigue cracks. Then same goes for hard facing. In hard facing, what happens, as you can see in the picture as well, you've got a crane, okay, and then using fusion welding electrode, I have basically deposited the fusion welding electrode onto the material. Okay, so that fusion welding electrode can be based on tungsten carbide alloy, nickel alloy, or any hard alloy that will give or impart hardness to the surface. So basically what you're doing is you're rebuilding the surface so that this coating will worn out once again, and then you will do the what do you call hard facing again. So this was all about mechanical plating and hard facing. However, the most important is coatings, actually, how coatings are carried out, how a material is coated, how a surface is coated, what are the different techniques of coatings. These were some of the treatment techniques. So let's take a look at some of the coating techniques. So number one coating technique is thermal spraying. Thermal spraying is basically a process in which coatings are deposited onto the material with the help of heat. Okay, so I'm going to heat a material, and by heating it is going to melt, and then that melt can be spread and deposited onto the material. Now I can do coating of various alloys, carbide. Okay, carbides are tungsten carbide, silicon carbide, titanium carbides. These are very hard ceramic materials. Then I can do polymers coating, I can do ceramic coatings, so they can be applied with the help of a spray gun. So using this is my surface, this is my spray gun, and this spray gun has got an heating element, and I'm going to spray the coating onto the surface. Okay, so the spray gun basically has got a stream of oxy fuel flame. It can have a heating arc. Okay, so I can have an arc, and then I will pass the material through the arc so that it will melt, or I will have a plasma arc. So the applications are basically immense. Okay, they are used in medical applications, automotive application, etc. So here is an example of basically biomedical coating. Okay, and that coating is applied to a hip joint. You can see you've got a hip joint, and biomedical coating is or hydroxyapatite. It is a calcium based coating, calcium phosphate coating, which is applied on the joint. So this help in basically improving the integration and basically improving the compatibility of the implant into the body. We have got other applications such as in aircraft engines and automotive applications as well. So thermal spraying can be done by two types. One is either by the combustion spraying. So basically you have an oxy-fuel nozzle, and then you basically combust the powders into the oxy-fuel nozzle, and then you blast them away. Whereas you can have electrical based ones in which you can create plasma or you can create an electric arc, and then with the help of the heat generated by electrical arc you can impinge the molten material.
Thermal spray technology. Designers are often required to engineer and change the surface properties of materials and components in order to meet the performance requirements of the most demanding environments. There are processes that enable a wide range of materials to take on the surface characteristics of expensive alloys and ceramics, providing benefits such as thermal protection, wear resistance, environmental protection. Forming a strong mechanical bond with the substrate. The coating is built up in layers until the required thickness is reached. Thorough and in-depth analysis of the coating structure is carried out in order to determine that the parameters such as density, porosity, and inclusions are within the acceptable tolerances specified by customers, and ensures that the right quality product is delivered every time. Wear-resistant coatings based on materials such as chrome carbide and tungsten carbide protect critical components operating in abrasive conditions. Components operating in high-temperature environments can be protected by the application of thermal barrier coatings, such as zirconia-based materials. Corrosion protection can be provided by the application of coatings such as chrome oxide and alumina.
So let's take a look at the first technique, which is the combustion type. So here we've got an example of thermal wire spray. Okay, here you've got basically your wire. Okay, this is the material that you want to deposit. That wire is basically going through a combustion chamber, and you've got a high velocity gas which goes, and you've got oxygen and fuel coming in. So this basically provides the heating element when it combusts, and when it combusts, then what happens is that the fuel wire is going to melt, and the air, basically gas nozzle, is going to blast it away onto the surface that I want to deposit my coating onto. So depending on the process, particle velocities can range about 150 to 1000 meter per second, and the temperature can range from 3000 degrees to 8000 degrees centigrade. So this type of coating, wire coating, is actually very relatively inexpensive, and can be used for different scenarios. Next, we move on to plasma coating, or the way in which electricity is used to supply the this is basically thermal metal powder spraying, in which you've got powder. Okay, so previously it was wire, now we have got powder. This is also a combustion type spraying process, in which you've got oxygen coming, fuel coming, we are burning it, then the powder comes in, it melts, and then it is deposited onto the surface. So this process is also like flames wire spraying. Next, we move on to basically the electrical type, in which we have got, you can see we have got spray powder suspended in a carrier gas. So you've got a gas, and that gas has the powder as well. So both of them wants to move. Okay, because using gas pressure, you are going to flow the powder towards the surface that you want to coat. Then you've got electric arc electrodes. Okay, so these are electric arc electrodes. Okay, you've got a plasma gas. Okay, so electric arc is produced only under argon or different types of plasma low gases. Okay, and then what happens is that an electric arc is generated, and then the powder is melted and impinges towards the surface that I want to deposit. So in plasma type of what you call spraying, what happens is that high energy or vacuum plasma is produced at temperature in the order of 8000 degrees centigrade. This results in a very good bond strength. Okay, and then you've got very low oxide content, and it can produce very low level of porosities. Usually for thermal spraying processes, we've got a problem of porosities, because sometimes the particles are partially melted, sometimes they're fully melted, but they don't join together immediately on the surface. There are some gaps or some pores which are remnant. Let's talk about vapor deposition. So vapor deposition is a process in which substrate workpiece surface is subjected to chemical reactions by gases. Those gases contain chemical compounds of material that are required to be deposited. The coating thickness is usually very few microns. Okay, sorry. Which is much less than the thickness that we have seen in the previous techniques, like thermal spraying and other techniques. Now the deposited material can consist of metal alloys, ceramics, composite coatings, carbides, oxide, etc. However, it is very important that because this is vapor deposition, so the control of coating composition, thickness, porosity are very, very important. The substrate can be metal. Okay, I can have metal, I can have plastic, I can have glass. Okay, I can have virtually almost anything, and then I can coat using vapor deposition process. Now there are different applications, but our typical applications of vapor deposition are coating of cutting tools, okay, drills, okay, reamers, milling cutters, dies, okay, molds, and wear surfaces. Now there are two types of vapor deposition process. Number one is physical vapor deposition, and then we've got number two is chemical vapor deposition. So in physical vapor deposition, we've got three. Number one is vacuum deposition or arc evaporation. Number two is sputtering, and number three is ion plating. And all of these processes are carried out at high vacuum in the range of, and at temperature which are in the range of 200 to 500 degrees centigrade. And the particles that I want to deposit, I will physically carry it in the chamber, and then I will have my own substrate material. So both of them are basically kept together in a similar or in a same box or in a same chamber where I want to do physical vapor deposition.
High durability and strength are required for tools, engine parts, and other parts used over long periods of time. Coating technologies to enhance strength and durability include plating processes and various other techniques. Among these, physical vapor deposition, or PVD surface treatment technology can be used to achieve high adhesion and hardness. In recent years, this technology has been incrementally used for various applications. The secret is the ability to form a film at the atomic and molecular levels. Arc ion plating is the most common method of physical vapor deposition. The coating process involves 4 steps. Impurities such as water vapor and oxygen in the air are reduced to create a vacuum. Heating is used to remove moisture and other impurities adhering to the surface of the metal object to be coated, fixture, and chamber inside the furnace. After that, an etching process is performed to remove oxides adhering to the object to be coated. The surface of the object is impacted with argon ions and other substances to remove impurities. An arc discharge is conducted between the metal material and chamber, vaporizing the metal material into a plasma state and ionizing the elements that form a film. By applying negative voltage to the object to be coated, the ionized elements impact it with force and are deposited, forming a film. Depending on the coating material used and processing conditions, it is possible to improve performance and properties in various ways, including reducing wear and enhancing heat resistance. PVD is the latest surface treatment technology, and it offers a variety of high-end film properties. New characteristics can be provided while protecting the base materials. The possibilities for arc ion plating are endless. Please contact us.
So let us take a look at the first type of physical vapor deposition technique, which is the vacuum deposition. In vacuum deposition, basically, as you can see in the picture as well, we see that we have got an evaporator, okay, and that evaporator is basically used to melt the material. It is basically used to evaporate the material at high temperature in a vacuum. So this whole chamber, as you can see, is in a vacuum, and this is connected to a vacuum pump. Then we have got evaporators, okay, and these evaporators help evaporate the material. Now the metal is evaporated at high temperature in a vacuum, and it is deposited on the substrate, and that substrate is basically slightly above a temperature. So you can see that the substrate has got a power supply, and that power supply basically gives some kind of heating element to it. So coating of uniform thickness can be deposited even on complex shapes as well. So this vacuum deposition is basically used for arc deposition. This is called PVARC deposition, or it can be pulsed laser deposition. This is a new technique which is coming up. So in arc deposition, what happens is that the coating material is put on the cathode part, okay. So you've got the coating material which is near the evaporator, and then you've got a neutral gas. So that coating material which is put on cathode is basically evaporated by several evaporators, as you can see, using highly localized electric arcs. So highly localized electric arcs are being produced with the help of electric power supply. The arc produced are highly reactive plasma, which consist of ionized vapor of the coating material. So what happens is that the ionized vapor of the coating material is basically ejected, and the vapor basically then later on condenses onto the substrate to produce a coating. The vapor condenses on the substrate, and that substrate is basically the anode part of the of this whole system. So the vapor condensation basically causes it to coat on the surface. The application of this process are both functional, such as oxidation resistant coating for high temperature applications in electronics and in optics, and as well as in decorative coatings. There is a new latest technique, pulsed laser deposition, and this uses the energy source as pulsed lasers. So we've got vacuum deposition in this way. There is another technique which is sputtering, or what you call reactive sputtering as well. In sputtering, basically what happens is that you have got the same electrical field, and that electrical field ionizes the inert gas which is present. We basically impinges, first we vacuum the whole chamber. After vacuuming, we put argon gas inside. After we put the argon gas, then the electric field in the sputtering chamber, basically it ionizes the material. Now we have got our substrate here, okay, and this is the anode, and in the vacuum chamber we have got cathode, and that cathode is attached the target material. Target basically is the material that we want to deposit, okay, the material such as calcium or what you call nickel or chromium, titanium. This is basically the material, and then what happens is that during ionization, the positive ions bombard the coating material from cathode, causing sputtering, ejection of an atom. So positive ions are going to strike the target material, and because of the striking of target material, the material of the target will also eject out. Okay, this is called sputtering process or ejection of atoms. Now those ejection of atoms, they are going to condense out onto the substrate that I put on the anode side in the vacuum chamber, and there is a power supply, positive connection to the anode and a negative connection to the cathode being attached. So these atoms then condense on the workpiece, and this workpiece is also heated via an electrical power supply. Now there is another technique called reactive sputtering. In reactive sputtering, what happens is that the inert gas such as argon is replaced by a reactive gas such as oxygen, nitrogen, so that if I have a target material such as titanium, then that titanium is going to react with oxygen, and then titanium dioxide is basically deposited. Or if I've got chromium and I've got carbide basically based reactive gas, then chromium carbide can be deposited. So basically what happens is that in these cases the atoms are oxidized and the oxides are deposited. Carbides, nitrides are also deposited by reactive sputtering. Also we can do is we can alternatively deposit a very thin polymer coating on metals and polymer substrates with reactive gas, causing polymerization of plasma. So radio frequency sputtering is another technique which is used for non-conductive material such as electrical insulators and semiconductor devices.
The use of thin layers of materials is a crucial need in many industries. Architectural glass, displays, and touch panels or solar cells all contain thin films. The most important coating process to produce these layers is called sputter deposition. How does it work? Sputtering deposition is done in a vacuum chamber. The most common substrate for the thin layers is glass. The sputter system can have different sizes depending on the application. The source of the thin film material is a planar or rotary sputtering target of metal, ceramic, or even plastic. Molybdenum targets, for example, are used to produce conductive thin films in displays or thin film solar cells. At this point, the process starts. Air is continuously removed by vacuum pumps. The base pressure in the vacuum is around 10 to the minus 6 millibar, which equals about a billionth of the atmospheric pressure. Argon gas is introduced continuously to achieve a low-pressure argon atmosphere. A magnet array inside the cylindrical target generates a magnetic field. The target is filled with cooling water, which will dissipate the heat generated during the sputtering process. The targets are rotating so that the material will be utilized uniformly. A high voltage is applied to the molybdenum target and creates a plasma, which is concentrated along the magnetic field. The plasma consists of argon atoms, positively charged argon ions, and free electrons. The positively charged argon ions are continuously generated by electrons hitting the argon atoms. The sputtering target is negatively charged. Therefore, the argon ions are attracted towards its surface. Let's see what happens. The argon ions collide with the target and eject molybdenum atoms from its surface. This is what the sputtering process is all about. In a way, it resembles a game of billiards, don't you think? Layer by layer, the ejected molybdenum atoms are deposited onto the glass substrate opposite the sputtering target. But let's go back to the target material. No metal can be made 100% pure. Iron or chromium impurities in molybdenum targets are critical. Why is that? Argon ions don't distinguish between molybdenum and impurities. Impurities will also be sputtered and incorporated into the thin film. Nobody wants that. Impurities can negatively influence the thin film properties, the electrical conductivity, for example. Only highly pure sputtering targets can ensure high-quality thin films. And that's what Plan A stands for.
So now that we have covered sputtering process, let's move on to the remaining slides. So we move on to laser surface engineering. Laser surface engineering is a very separate topic, and it covers almost all the coating techniques which we have discussed already, except that now we are going to use lasers to basically deposit those coatings, or we are going to use laser to perform those kind of treatments. For instance, if you've got laser heating, so basically the laser is going to scan the whole substrate, and we are going to deposit certain amount of heat onto the substrate so that heat treatment process is carried out, either in the form of tempering or perhaps change of phase occurs, etc. That would cause only the near surface regions to basically transform their phase or to change their chemical structure, or even perhaps change the microstructure. Perhaps it can change the size of the grains, perhaps it can reduce or increase, etc. So this will basically change the the function of the surface of the material. So lasers can be used to do heating, such as annealing, solid state, phase transformation, hardening, etc. Next, we move on to melting. So basically, using laser, if the energy density is increased, then it is going to melt that part as well. Now, if I am going to melt the metal itself, then it is called laser surface melting. And in laser surface melting, basically you melt the material to basically make some microstructural, significant microstructural changes. Because when laser basically melts the material, it significantly cools also very quickly. So when there is significantly rapid cooling which occurs, then what happens is that the strength and hardness and wear resistance of the material also improves. So laser melting can be used with alloying as well. So basically you put a alloying powder onto the surface and then you melt the powder. So that powder is going to basically get into the substrate. So you can put titanium carbide powder, boron carbide, titanium nitride. Okay, these are the things that you can put onto the substrate that you want to do coating or laser cladding or laser alloying, and then you pass the laser. So that laser is going to melt the powder as well as a little bit melt the substrate also, and that powder is going to be embedded into the substrate. So this is laser cladding or laser alloying. And then with the help of laser you can form composites also. If you put the powder, let's say like a metal matrix, such as you put aluminum and tungsten carbide, then this will be aluminum matrix tungsten carbide composite. So particulates will be tungsten carbide and matrix will be aluminum. So that also you can deposit. Now the laser can melt the powder, or you can put the powder within the laser, okay, and then you can pass a jet, and that jet will basically impinge on the substrate, and then the laser heat will be used to basically smoothly coat that as well. So I will put some videos for you guys to visualize how laser cladding or laser composite surfacing or laser melting is carried out. Then we can do laser vaporization, like physical vapor deposition can be done with the help of laser also, that you use laser to do the evaporation of the target material. Then we've got shock peening. So what you saw earlier was laser shock peening is also carried out. So there are different types of coating techniques and coating treatments which are used, which can be done with the help of lasers. The reason why lasers are used, because it can move very quickly within seconds, okay, and it can cover a great amount of distance. You can control the heat, you can control the distance, you can control different parameters to create a very nice coating system. So laser is now an emerging and a very rapidly developed and adapted technology for even IR 4.0 based industries as well. So laser and incorporation of laser is now becoming very common. So this was all about laser surface engineering. Next we move on to the remaining types. Okay, I will just name chemical vapor deposition, ion implantation and diffusion coating. There are many different types of coatings that we cannot cover in the course. However, for the sake of purpose of knowledge, you guys should at least have some know-how of the naming of these types of coatings, and I will put the book chapter as well for you guys if you want to go into details of them. You've got conversion coating, you've got hot dipping, porcelain enabling, ceramic and organic coatings, diamond coating and diamond-like carbon coatings, which have very low friction coefficient and they are very hard. Then we've got surface texturing, and then last but not least we have got painting. So coating and coatings technique in general is a very interesting topic. With the help of coatings we can increase the hardness, increase the wear resistance, increase the corrosion resistance, we can improve the oxidation resistance of various materials, and this is a very interesting topic for research purpose as well. So this
Joining Technologies is recognized as an innovator in laser welding and cladding applications, delivering absolute reliability through innovation and team. Joining Technologies uses laser cladding of metal powder alloys to enhance, repair, or free-form material for applications in aerospace, power generation, valve, and OEM-supplied components.
Laser cladding is using a laser as the primary energy source and bringing into it either powder or wire to create a weld pool. It's used principally to restore surfaces, either OEM or from the repair side of original material, or we can also add hard surfacing or cladded surfaces of dissimilar metals to meet specific purposes or applications for the customer or the user end requirements.
The LAP process can offer positional accuracy while maintaining material quality and metallurgical bonding. The unprecedented precision and reliability of our laser cladding processes is now available to private industry for the first time. As the exclusive provider of LAP, Laser Applied Powder's surface restoration technology, we're able to create true metallurgical bonds between virtually unlimited metal types. Precisely focused lasers enable us to create an extraordinarily small heat-affected zone and dilution zone for superior strength, hardness, and performance. Additionally, we offer our customers the LAW, or Laser Applied Wire process for metal surface restoration of critical aero engine components using wire as the clad material. The LAP process is used to laser-clad metal powder alloys when enhancing or repairing parts. Using a laser to create a melt pool on the workpiece, powdered metal is fed through a nozzle into the weld puddle, creating a clad layer. Unlike HVOF, the LAP process achieves a full metallurgical bond by fully melting the surface of the substrate while applying powder. The precisely targeted heat of the laser allows for lower penetrations of the parent material, resulting in a smaller heat-affected zone and a lower dilution rate. This translates to an enhanced grain structure and lower minimum clad thickness required to achieve desired hardness, as compared to PTA-applied clads. Parametric accuracy of the system allows for clad layers as thin as 0.004 of an inch, with maximum clad thicknesses ranging over 3 inches.
Probably the most significant advantage of the laser-applied powder over the HVOF or thermal spray processes is that we have a true metallurgical bond, meaning that we create a weld pool, and we do not relying on a mechanical bond, such as in thermal spray applications. Therefore, the likelihood of chipping or peeling is significantly reduced.
Joining Technologies is most often called upon when the challenge is significant and the risk is high.
this is the end of the surface coatings topic, and this is the end of your lectures for surface engineering as well, and the end of your course as well. So good luck with your presentation, and I hope to see you on soon for your presentation assessment.